Satnam, and welcome back to the Channel for Grace Uncut podcast. Today's guest here is Sahara Rose, who is a best-selling author, host of the #1 spirituality podcast in the US, the Highest Self podcast, and founder of the Highest Self Institute, where she has trained thousands of spiritual life and Dharma coaches. Dubbed a leading voice for the millennial generation by Deepak Chopra, Sahara bridges ancient Eastern wisdom with modern embodied expression, making spirituality accessible, empowering, and wildly fun. Her work focuses on sacred union, feminine embodiment, and discovering your soul's purpose in this lifetime. With a magnetic presence and poetic transmission, she speaks to a generation hungry for deeper meaning and beauty and remembrance. So welcome, Sahara. I'm so excited to have you here on the show.
J, and how cool that J is your name.
Right?
So I'm excited to be here. Thank you. And thank you for everyone listening. I'm excited to drop in today.
Me too. I've been waiting to have this conversation. We met for the first time on a recent trip with Robert Everett Grant to Egypt, and it was amazing. It was incredible. And I found out during this trip that you're also a projector, which I was invited to come in and look into and talk about Gene Keys, human design, and astrology, and how I kind of merge it and put it all together to do the most authentic readings that I, through my intuition, I can do. And so it was so cool to meet like another projector and to just find out that you were another projector. So yeah.
Projector life. I feel like I roll with lots of projectors. Lots of us are in the spirit realm because we're the natural oracle, mystic, connected to unseen. Of course, everyone can be, but I feel like anytime I meet a human design reader, for sure, they are always a projector.
That's funny. Yeah, I actually, I started studying astrology and then dove into human design and then eventually found the Gene Keys and discovered that they're all interconnected and interwoven through the different systems and specifically like based off of astrology. So it was just a natural progression for me, right, to dive into the whole human design world. So it's exciting. I would love to ask you, for those people that are listening that are not familiar with who you are, can you tell them a little bit more about yourself?
So I'll speak from a human design Gene Keys angle, because I know that's what your audience is the language of the audience. So ever since I was a young child, I could see things that I started to realize other people could not. So I grew up in Massachusetts in the woods, near Salem, which is where the witch trials happened. And so when I was a kid, I would see like Abraham Lincoln, like I would see historical figures. I would see what was happening in the Underground Railroad. I would see many beings that I wasn't sure, is that a person? Is it not? And it was very confusing and overwhelming because I just wasn't really quite sure. I would look at certain objects and see portals in them. I would see how different, for example, roses were portals that could take you into another dimension. But then I would get really scared of these things because it was like out of control. Like when I would fall asleep, I would, in that in-between realm, when you're like sleeping and awake, it would be this space it was like this black, endless space. And I would just be free falling and I couldn't catch on to anything. It was the void. And I would kind of go there every night and my hands would be really big. And it was this like very strange feeling I would have. I would pick up objects and spirits would be trapped in them. So for example, I got this pencil box in Iran where my family's from, and I brought it back to the United States with me, and it would make these loud sounds every single night. And I would tell my mom, I'm like, something in my room is making really loud sounds. It's like there's crickets in my room or termites or something. And she's like, no, there can't be, it's not possible. And then one night she slept in my room and even she was hearing it. And then realized it was a spirit that was trapped in the pencil box. And so, yeah, so it was very overwhelming for me. And when I was 10 years old, I got into witchcraft, because in Salem, like that is really when
Yeah.
you're a spiritual kid, that's kind of what you know. That's the first thing you see. I knew I was a magical being in some kind of way. So I would see spell books and things like that. So it was like white witchcraft, but I started doing ritual and magic and working with elements, and but the kids were very afraid of me. And there were these two other girls actually in my class that could also work with spirits. So we would like be kind of sent on these missions. Like we would like see like beings trapped in trees, and we were like having to save them, and all these crazy paranormal things were going on. And so the kids were afraid of me. And on top of that, my family's from Iran. I looked very different from everyone. 9/11, that happened as well. And so the kids, one day I was passing a hill and they said, burn the witch at the stake. And this boy pushed me down the hill and he came tumbling after me. And he had a cast on his foot that was like those metal casts you could like walk on when you're healing your foot. And that hit my head and gave me a concussion. And so I tumbled down this hill and I passed out, and I woke up and they were all just still laughing at me. And I just knew I had to like just get out of there. And so I went to the principal, I got myself up, I went to the principal's office, and, I got sent home. And then after, the school said, it's your fault. You were scaring the kids from what you guys are up to. And you're not allowed to talk to those girls anymore. You're not allowed to talk about any of those things, nothing. And that was when I realized it is not safe for me to be magical. These things are going to get me like literally killed. And so I turned it off at that time, and it was off, and I stopped being mystical, connected to those realms for over a decade after that. And it wasn't until I was 19 years old that I started to get deep into yoga. First as like this physical practice, and then through yoga, I'm like, wow, I'm having all these like memories of my childhood and these realizations. And I just wanted to keep doing yoga. And I started to just dive deeper into it, and Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutras, and I became raw vegan. And then from being raw vegan, I started to have health issues. First I felt better, and then I felt worse. And my digestive issues and hormonal issues, I stopped getting my period for 1 year, 2 years, no period, lost so much weight. And then I had to start going to doctors, and they told me my body went into perimenopause when I was 21 years old now.
Wow.
And so then I had to go on a journey of self-healing. And that journey of self-healing led me to Ayurveda, the sister science of yoga. Through studying Ayurveda, healing my body, I got back my period, and I started to realize the body and the mind are connected. I became obsessed with learning everything about it, started to realize deeper. The reason why the body has physical symptoms is because there's something deeper out of balance, that we're disconnected from the truth of who we are. Who is the truth of who I am? Sent me deeper into my spiritual journey. What is my Dharma, my soul's purpose? Why am I here? Why do I feel so different from everyone around me? What is an old soul? What are past lives? I started to remember all of my past lives. And that was really the start of my spiritual reawakening, which I think happens in different segments in our journey, And so I went on to that path of studying Ayurveda, living in India for 2 years, writing my first book about Ayurveda, getting rejected by 30 publishers, but continuing on that journey until eventually I wrote that book, until eventually I walked up to Deepak Chopra at a conference. He read the book, he loved it. He wrote the foreword of the book, and continued to do everything I could to get that book out there. Wrote another book, another Oracle card deck. And then the big question I was getting from people that now, how did you go from confused, broke, overwhelmed, health issues? I was disowned by my family on this path as well, to living this completely different reality. And that's when I started to realize it was because I was living my Dharma, my soul's purpose. And that when you are living your Dharma, you start to get all of this universal support because it wants you to go in that direction. Mm-hmm. And that's when I wrote my book, Discover Your Dharma, and created Dharma Coaching Institute, and the journey goes on. So it's a little snapshot of who I am.
I was like, wow, that was like a lot wrapped up into like 2 minutes. Yeah, wow, that's quite a story. And interesting, that early on you automatically felt this like deep connection to pretty much like ancestral past lineage, the whole mystical side of life. and then life kind of like hits you in the face, which is essentially what happens. In my own way, to share a little bit about my story, I was born in Argentina, and I moved to the United States when I was about 8 years old, and that was kind of a huge trauma for me. Leaving home, I had like cats that I had to leave with the neighbor. I mean, it was terrible, right? So that whole transition was difficult, and my whole life, I was again like similar. I was under the roof of parents who like wanted the best for us, their kids, but the sort of kind of more militant type of like raising us created this atmosphere where it was like I wasn't really allowed to even really learn who I was. So I spent years and years and years like really not knowing. So for me it was kind of like the opposite, where like I never really got to explore myself until I was in my 20s, when I finally kind of like got away. I moved away from California, which is where we were living, and I moved to Colorado. And then that's when I started to kind of release and open up and have a more freedom to explore myself. But it's crazy. And it often happens where as children, we are naturally like guided to these like otherworldly mystical experiences, and then we're completely shut down. And that's actually one of the things in that I want or hope to inspire in people, specifically parents, that to learn, what are your child's gifts so that you can actually help them to grow those gifts and like really step into those gifts instead of like, putting people in boxes. I think that's a huge thing that we're learning to transition out of in the world. I'm hoping that as we're moving into the new world, that I can see it already happening, but yeah, wow, that's quite a story. I love this whole concept of Ayurveda. Can you share a little bit more about that? What is Ayurveda?
Ayurveda is the world's oldest health system and the sister science of yoga based on the mind-body connection. So in Ayurveda, it's not just you are what you eat, but it's you are how you digest, how you assimilate. And it's not just food, it's energy. How are we digesting life, right? And so we have three doshas, three energy types: Vata, which is air energy; Pitta, which is more fire energy; Kapha, which is more earth energy, just to give the main elements of them. And so people who are more Vata are like air in the mind, creative, big picture; air in the body, bloating, gas, constipation, amenorrhea. People who are Pitta, fire in the mind, hot-headed, sharp, ambitious, driven; in the body, hot, acidic, inflamed. People who are Kapha, earth, in the mind are calm, centered, sometimes lethargic; in the body, strong immune system, stable, dense, but hard to move energies. They can get stuck in things. So we all have a combination of all three in various amounts. I have a quiz on my website that people can take to understand their dosha. I have books about it. There's so much you can dive into. But for me, understanding myself, I had a huge Vata imbalance, air imbalance. So it made sense, because the foods that society tells us to eat that are the healthiest foods are smoothies, salads, green juices, things like that. Okay, if you're in a very tropical, hot environment, you can handle a lot more of that. I was in Massachusetts, very cold. It wasn't the right thing for me. On top of that, I'm naturally more Vata. So it felt good for me. I love fasting. I love doing yoga. I love just being in the spirit realm, but I needed to ground. So I needed the opposite. I needed more of that fire and earth energy. So Ayurveda is really about bringing balance into the elements that we are lacking.
I love that. That's so, and it's so body focused. And I think that is also something that in our society we're making with all of these things. I feel like we're really making transitions, but people do definitely have a hard time dropping into their body. And this actually ties into the whole concept of human design. And that, in human design, something that we talk about is authority. And so there's like emotional authority, where you have to really tap into your feelings. There is a splenic authority, where you have to trust your intuition. There is sacral authority, which is like your body tells you yes and no. And of all of the types, of all of the human design types, there's one type called the mental projector, which is essentially my type. And it has to do with like there's a lot of mental activity going on. So a lot of like speaking my thoughts and sharing my wisdom, and it naturally comes through. But no one in human design has mental authority, or what we would call like you make decisions from your mind, which is such an interesting concept, because we live in this society and this like culture that basically is saying that every decision must be made in a logical way through the mind. If you're not thinking logically, then you're not going to make the right decision, you're not going to make the right choices, on and on and on and on. And nowhere in there is the space to drop into the body. And so the whole concept is that your body knows, right? And if you just let your body do the walking and the choosing for you, it'll always guide you in the exact right direction that you need to go to stay in alignment. So I love this concept that Ayurveda is dropping into the body, and also recognizing how both in the body and the mind there's like a combination of both, and how actually eating different types of food can help balance you. I just think that's so important. I really feel like everyone should know about this. Like really, we should all have this wisdom. And yeah, it's freaking ancient. It's like it's been around, right, for a long time. And I feel like it's all of these tools can bring about a wholeness into our experience. So do you I know you've written a book about it, and do you have any courses or classes where you teach this concept of Ayurveda to people?
Yeah, so if people go on my website, they can take a dosha quiz. I have a book called Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda, which is like a 400 plus page textbook of everything you need to know about Ayurveda. I have a book called Eat, Feel Fresh, which is like a modern plant-based cookbook, and also shares about Ayurveda in a more modern lens. And I have a course as well with Mind Body Green called A Modern Approach to Ayurveda. And I also want to share that diving deep, I'm writing my 5th book now, and I'm realizing so much of what we know about reading people's faces and bodies and our bodies, it's so intuitive in us. And we can even take a moment to speak on that, because I notice that we are always face reading. Everyone we meet, we are inferring so much information just based on how they look. And I really believe that our souls chose our faces, chose our bodies, chose our voices, chose our essences, our eyes, the way that we communicate, the cadence that we have. All of this was pre-chosen by our oversoul so we could communicate the Dharma that we're here to be. And people keep hearing me say this word Dharma. It's your soul's purpose. It's your unique frequency. It's the big reason why you are here. So I find many of us who are on this priestess path, right? A lot of spiritual women who are here to share their wisdom in a greater way. We will often choose these like beautifully unique faces that speak into the essence of who we are. Like I kind of look like this like ancient Rajasthani Persian priestess, like, and that's like my like lineage. Even the background, it's so ethereal. It has this like Saraswati vibe to it, and you're a musician, and you're like cosmic and angelic, and it's like in you, it's in your eyes, it's in your auric field. And I feel we're always face reading, right? It's like we say don't judge, but we actually are. And it's not judgment, but it's inference, it's intuitive wisdom. So it's interesting to think of why did I choose this? Why did I choose, if you were born in the privilege of just being able to share, why did you choose that? And I really believe that our bodies, every single things are just physical manifestations of our souls. They are the temples that we carved for ourselves. We are living in the sacred geometry of who we are. And so when we start to get curious about that, it also shifts. It shifts with time. I look so different than my 20s than I do now. I look way better. I was looking pictures of me. I'm 34. I was looking at pictures of me when I was 26. I'm like, I look 10,000 times better now than I did at 26 because I'm so much more connected to the truth of who I am. So you start to shapeshift as you go through a spiritual
Oh, I love
journey.
that. I love
Totally.
that.
But like my colors change. Like my eyes used to be like a darker brown, and now they are much like lighter. And it's not about like light eyes or more spiritual. It's just about density gets cleared. And so when we are clearing these traumas, these energetic debris, and really that's what the spiritual path is about. It's actually about purification. It's not about figuring something out. It's not about learning all this information. It's about clearing what is holding us back so we can remember the truth of who we are, because we were born knowing, but we agreed to the temporary amnesia so we can go on the journey of then remembering, because it wouldn't be so fun. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, damn, but like, then how are we supposed to raise kids if like we want to give them the best, but the traumas are the only things that teach them? And it's like, you know what? You don't have to choose the trauma. God will, and I think that it's even the word trauma, it's like resistance, contrast. I really feel that we need this. I feel that a lot of times, I know myself, earlier in my spiritual journey, I was like, how can it always just be easy? I just want ease, 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 ease. And when you surrender to the path of the priestess, you're like, oh, like the darkness, the resistance, like that is where the greatest growth happens. That's where alchemy comes from.
Mm.
And then when you're no longer resistant to it, then even when you're in it and you can go through the darkness from a place of ease, you transmute it so much more quickly. And I do believe that right now in this time, time is speeding up. We're going through a lot of things more quickly because we are assimilating faster. And those of us who are really on a growth timeline, which are people who have chosen liberation in this lifetime, which is the ultimate goal, if there were to be a goal, is to be goalless, is to be liberated from all desires. Like I feel like even in the spiritual journey, we want to manifest, and that only takes us so far. But when we start to realize, why do I even want to manifest that thing? And that desire is actually just a dangling carrot on my journey of consciousness. And it's not even about that thing. It's just the only thing that will make me like go towards it. And you realize everything going on in this world is just another opportunity for liberation. And if you look at every single thing from that lens, then things start to unfold so much more quickly. And things that would have taken you like 2 years to figure out take you like 2 hours to move through. And then you can start to experience all of the different soul contracts and past lives and all the things you want to experience in this one lifetime. And I really believe that so many of us have moved through so many different lifetimes. Like we're cats, we've had like 9 or more lives because we are in like our final lifetimes, like the Vedic say, in your final lifetimes, you choose to front load your karma. You choose to like go through as much of it as you can, especially at the beginning, because you're like, let me go through it as much as possible so then I can be free. And then because then the sooner you realize life keeps happening, but then you're no longer so identified with the problem because it's like being awake within a dream. Every single time there's a resistance, it's just greater expansion. So you're just like, oh, great, more expansion on the other side of this. And I share all of this because I think we just really in our world get so caught up in our desire and our manifestation, our small worlds that we create for ourselves, which makes sense. But it's important for us to tune out. Like that's why, you and I were in the temple and I was deeply crying from the remembrance of the temple. And because we no longer have spaces where we can connect to something greater than ourselves. Our little worlds become such big problems. We go on social media, it's an echo chamber of our unique trauma and our unique life experience that's being handed back to us again and again and again until we go in within and choose another algorithm. Because the life's algorithm will keep us in that spiral. It takes reaching certain rock bottoms and dark nights of the soul to be like, fuck, I want to do things a different way. And that means not interested, literally like on your Instagram, but like in life, not interested, to choose a new timeline, to choose a new algorithm. And I share this from a place of being so in it right now. Iran is in war. My family is stuck there. I'm going to sleep and waking up hearing about it. And I'm like, how can I look at this from a path of liberation? Like, how can I, even in a war, look at what is the like greater perspective that I can have in this situation that's beyond this life, that's beyond this time. And ultimately, Earth will always be okay. Like we
Mm,
are just mere minions. And I think when we go into death, which is the ultimate spiritual practice, like I think about my death every single day and I realize, what's the worst that can happen? I die. Well, actually, I die is I get to go into like higher levels of dimension. You know, it's actually much more pleasurable for the soul to die than be born. Because when you're born, you got to come down, you know. I'm not
yeah.
saying go seek death, but I'm
Right.
saying the worst that can happen is you go back to source. And so when you realize that, it's like I'm running away and creating all of this pain from actually like the experience that my soul like is like the grand finale of this lifetime, you know? And when you realize this, it's like, okay, like let me just live this human experience out as much as possible. Let me feel as much as possible because obviously my soul wanted to be here at this time for the, 2025 human experience. All the souls were fighting to be here. I got on the wait list. I got off the wait list. I got to be here. And now it's like, how can I feel it all? Because feeling is the curriculum. If I can feel and increase my spectrum and increase my range and increase my awareness while also putting my focus towards the experiences I desire to have more of in tandem, then I can really not master, but like fully live out the experience that my soul chose for me.
Mm, yeah. Amen to all of that. I mean, speaking of manifesting in general, like one of the experiences that I've been having lately, and this has been happening like this year specifically, for me, Robert completely activated something in my life. He just played this role, and in his life, it's probably just like another day in the life of Robert. But for me, it was like this huge expansion that happened after coming in contact with him. Him inviting me to be on his podcast, then inviting me to come to Egypt the first time because I was there in February, and then getting to meet Matthias because of him, who was a teacher of mine that I've been following for freaking ever. And that was like a dream come true. And like all of a sudden, all these like dreams started like to come alive. And I wasn't even trying. Like it felt like I didn't even have to do anything for those things to like show up. And then I was invited again on the second trip that you were at. And I mean, it was just like, whoa, like, and I've had these, epiphanies in the last like few weeks, days, of how when I stop trying, that's when things start manifesting. Like so I'll give you an example. Um, when you were in Egypt, there was an opportunity for me to go with Robert and a couple of other participants to this place of the dragons, if you remember us kind of talking about it. And then there was this dragon store there, and it was like an adventure because I remember that morning, I was being invited, but I was actually getting ready to take a nap because I was so tired, because that whole Egypt trip was like so, every time, both times that I've gone, it's like just exhausting but exciting, and it's like it's a whirlwind. So I was getting ready to take a nap, but actually, Robert, I was contacting Robert, I was speaking with this other guy, and I was getting invited to go to this experience, to visit this dragon door. And so I ended up kind of like stepping into that adventure without even knowing where we were going to go, what we were going to do, and having this powerful experience at the location, where in the process I saw we saw these dragon figures, and we saw these dragon eggs and all this stuff. And Robert was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And we did just a short like ritual. And in my mind's eye, I saw these two dragons swirling in a circle, white dragons swirling in a circle, and then shooting straight up to the sky. And it almost felt to me like they were either released or awakened, or something happened with these dragons. So then that experience happened. And then the next thing that was, part of my plan was to lead this retreat in Sedona. And I was having an orientation session with the women, and one of the women said, "Are we going to the door?" And I was like, "What door?" she was like, oh, well, we're going to go visit the Palatki ruins in Sedona. I don't know if you've been to them. And at these ruins, there's this like door, like a portal. And I was like, she's like, yeah, Matthias went to the door. And I was like, wait a minute. And I remembered him posting something about this door. And all of a sudden I realized I was being called to go to this door. Out of it was like I didn't even do anything. It was just happening. And I actually sent Matthias a message and I was like, what can you tell me about this door in Sedona? I'm really curious. I feel like something happened at the Dragon's Door, and I feel like something really needs to be anchored, at this location. And that's totally new to me. That whole, some people like that's their life. This is totally new to me. And so he sent me, the contact of someone who is the doorkeeper of Sedona. And so anyways, I had this conversation just through messages, and eventually I was kind of told that the doors were closed. And I was like, okay, so if the door wants me to be there, it's going to happen. I'm not even going to worry about it. So I just completely let it go. And then we ended up going straight to the door. When we were there, it's like one thing led to another. And they were just so happy to be doing extended tours. And then we ended up going to the door and we had this epic experience. And that's just one example of how what I feel I experience is that when you completely let go of trying to create things and trying to manifest things, that's when they actually happen. Like when, like Abraham Hicks says, like instead of paddling upstream, you turn your boat around, you stop paddling, and then you just let it take you downstream because that's like the easiest path forward. And yes, when you were speaking about, this whole concept of manifesting, that kept coming up for me. So it is an important thing to think about, or like, just contemplate in your life, is that we think so much that we have to try. And in reality, it's like you have to just relax and ease into life. And that also ties into everything you were speaking to, how, growth kind of happens. For me, the moments where I've had these like dark nights of the soul, I have surrendered. Like I've literally had that death ritual. And that was what was needed in order to like come out on the other side and then look back. And it's always in looking back that you understand more of the meaning of everything. So yeah, powerful concepts. I have a question for you about specifically when you discovered your human design and knowing what a projector is, and coming into the awareness of how was that process for you?
It felt like a remembrance again of like, yeah, totally. This makes sense. Like I've always been that oracle, that person that people come to when they need guidance. Even since I was a child, I was like the marriage counselor of my parents, and I just feel like sometimes projectors get parentified because we could just see things from a higher level. So it just made total sense for me. I'm a 4/6 profile. So 4, I've always been someone who builds community. That's always been a huge gift of mine, of just finding amazing people. And I'm not like the 5 profile that like I just love all people. I'm not that, but like my people, and I really like hold on and build that. And then the 6 of the role model. And that has also been a big part of my path. I'm a splenic projector. So that first instinct thing, which can be challenging to do because you want to give people chances and that kind of thing. But it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm learning not to do that so much and just going with that like first instinct. I think, for example, the void I'm in right now in my life is around sacred union partnership, and like really finally calling that in after being, I was married, went through a really painful divorce, was on a journey of really healing heartbreak, discovering what's the real meaning of relationship and marriage in this time, and do I even want this, and all the different layers that came with that. It's been, and this year's 3 years, so it's been a portal, and really calling in that sacred union partnership. But it's hard with dating and that splenic authority, because I kind of know from the beginning, like, this is not going to work out. But then I'm like, okay, am I being picky? Like, do I give them a chance? But then every single time I'm correct. So it's like, It's
That's
interesting.
interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
curious when I meet him if my spleen will just know. I mean, in the past with my ex, I did know instantly. But then you try to take other people's advice of sometimes attraction's built over time. Sometimes you got to give it a few dates. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe they're not splenic authority because I feel like it's either there for me or it's not.
No, that's so true. That's such a, yeah, authority is so important to like, and specifically that type of authority. My husband actually has that type of authority too. And it's so funny because like I tell this story quite often about to try to explain what it is, like for someone who doesn't know what splenic authority. So the spleen center is the center of intuition, and it's like this voice that tells you yes or no, and it's essentially instinct to keep you safe and to kind of guide you in the right direction. So if you have it as an authority, that little voice is sometimes can be very subtle, but the more you start paying attention to it, the more clarity you're like, wow, this is really taking me to the right place in the right time. So my husband, he travels a lot for work. He's a medical intuitive. And one day he was like driving back from Texas. We live in Arizona. So he's like on his way back and he's like, I'm going to go the south way, which makes absolutely no sense because we live in northern Arizona. But because of who I am, who he is, I was like, okay, babe, we'll just trust your spleen. At this point, that's how we talk to each other. And so I'm like, okay, great, just it's fine. But then what ended up happening is like the northern route, there was this freaking tornado that passed by, and he would have been on the road when that tornado passed. So it was like that splenic authority. Like you just know, and it usually it doesn't make any logical sense. Like,
It's
but that's the
so true.
thing. Yeah, like when you ignore when you everybody has an authority. When you ignore that authority, what's going to end up happening is you're going to go probably to your head and you start processing it like what about this? What about that? And then once it goes to the head, it's like you lost it because you get lost in the mind, and the mind is not meant to be the thing that helps you make decisions. The mind is the observer. Like there's an analogy in human design that talks about how the mind, the personality side, which is the mind, the consciousness, it's the passenger in the car. The car represents like the direction of your life, right? Like your destiny, like it's where you're going. And then the person driving the car is actually your body, your actual design, that part of you that's more like hardware versus like software. Like it cannot be influenced. There is a direction, there is a purpose, there is a destiny. Like in astrology, it's like the north node of destiny. And so because of that, the mind is never meant to like reach over and grab the wheel, but like our mind tries to reach over and like turn the wheel this way and turn the wheel that way because it thinks it knows, but it doesn't. So like that splenic authority is the thing that's really gonna like, yeah, tell you instantly. And if you learn to listen to it, it's like there's no doubt in your mind of what's right and what's wrong, what's right and not right for you.
And I find that when you miss sometimes that first one and you're like, oh, shoot, it's too late now. I've been thinking about this for too long. A practice that I like to do is I will make 4 boxes. One is, what does my head say about this situation? So what are my thoughts? What's the facts? What's the information? Like, what are those, because I think sometimes the head needs a voice, because if you just try to not think about it, it gets like, starts to be like the back current of the other decision. So it's like, okay, write down all the head, the facts, the logic, what makes sense, the pros, cons list, write it all down. Then I go into the heart. What does the heart have to say? If I was purely based on feeling, what would it say? Now, this is not the whole thing. I know some people, they only follow their heart and their lives are roller coasters.
Mm.
It's not just, to me, it's not, I have found if I only follow my feelings change all the time. Sometimes I'm feeling really high about something. Sometimes I'm feeling low about something. It's like there's, of course, the emotional wave in human design, but I think all of us have an emotional wave and all of us have a spleen, and to some degree. So I find if I was just listening to my heart, what would I have to say? There's a wisdom and there's an intelligence to heart, and it's a piece of the puzzle. Then I go into my body. What does my body have to say? When I think about the different options here, which one brings me more feelings of expansion, upliftment, opening my arms, heart open, energy, momentum? I want to go towards this thing. In which decision am I contracting, fearful? My heart is closing. I'm clenching my jaw. I'm clenching my hands. I'm literally energetically getting smaller. My gut, noticing that. Then I go into just intuitive. If someone just gave me the situation, what's the first thing I would have said? More of that spleen energy and that. And I take into account all of that. And for me, often instantly from doing that practice, I'll know. Now, for some people, I say, write it all out, put it on your fridge, come back to it for a couple of hours, a couple of days, according to how big the decision is. And just having that input there often can give you that understanding and bring back what you may have missed out on earlier.
You know what I love about that is that there's also this concept, at least according to the human design, that most of us, most of the types in human design have some kind of strategy that is to wait, like to wait for responding or to wait for the invitation. So what that is doing is it's tapping into that's the wisdom, is that you have to take your time, right? Like, well, first of all,
It's hard because I can be, maybe it's a splenic thing. I can be so
yeah.
impulsive. And then I find if I just wait actually a little bit and I sit, it's like a deeper level of intuition. I also find ritual. This is why ritual is so important. You
Yeah.
know, whether it's for me working with the water, like
Mhm.
that's what I love about Bali. We have waterfalls, which are just amazing. But even when you're just taking a shower, going into a bath, something with the water to just purify the karmic density and debris to come back into this place of remembrance.
Yeah, I know water for me is huge as well. Recently in the Sedona trip, we went swimming in the creek and I could just feel like the water in places that are, natural formations just has like a different quality, like a different energy to it. And I remember feeling like this is it right here. I love this. Like I need to do this more often. But quite often, like when I will take a shower to clear my energy. Like I'll be like, I can't do anything right now unless I like take a shower or something. So I 100% agree. And another thing that I feel is also just a little side note about like the sacredness of water is like praying. Speaking of ritual, like praying into your water and then drinking the intention of that, like infusing the water with like magic. But just in general, I 100% agree that water is so cleansing and purifying. And yes, that leads us to the fact that like you have to have clarity, and the thing that gets the most confused is the mind. Like the one place where we get so confused is like the mental plane, because there's questions, there's doubt, there's all these ideas, and then also depending on like if you have kind of openness, in these higher centers, you you don't have a consistent sort of way of like grabbing onto information, and it's kind of like this flow, this river that you have to just let kind of pass through. But it's also the same with emotions, like that wave that you mentioned. It's like the wave's going to go up and the wave's going to go down and then it's going to come back to neutral, but always in that place of clarity is when the answer always arrives, right? It's so powerful.
Especially now where there are external forces, social media, which can make us very reactive, right? Like we see videos and it triggers this natural response. And then we are acting from a place of helplessness,
Mm.
guilt, rage, rather than I feel if we all just sat with it, went to nature, went to earth, went to the waters, prayed, looked at the clouds, some sort of, it's not even a pattern interrupt. It's actually going back to reality, because that is reality. What we're seeing on social media is not. And so they've kind of flipped it upside down of, oh no, what's in social media is a reality. You're disconnected from reality. Well, actually, your reality is what's happening around you.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes us, they've trained us to feel bad about that. Like, oh, you're spiritual bypassing if you're only focused on your life. It's like, well, actually, the only thing you can focus on
What else am
really
I supposed
is
to
your
do?
life. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so true. Like this concept of like in the spiritual community, how like the ego's bad. And if you only focus on yourself, blah, 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 blah. I've been having conversations about this lately where like the key is to recognize there has to be a balance. It's always about a balance. And like your ego is just as important. Like the fact that you literally went from like the all conscious energy, cosmic energy, into a one person and living in a body, which essentially in the physical realm, it's like separated from other bodies, right? Like that itself is like the ultimate expression of ego. And and you need that ego to literally guide you. Like what else is going to guide you toward your purpose in a dualistic world, right? In this physical reality where like you've got to make choices. And yes, time is an illusion and all of that, but there is this process of evolution that requires all of us, because I guess in this world we have, I don't know what you believe, like there's some part of like we are making choices in some way. Yes, like life is not like fated, but yes, there's a direction, there's a path, there's like a train tracks of like, this is the highest potential of your truth. But as you go along, you are making choices, and you're choosing like either healing or not healing, right? Like something toxic or not toxic, So I feel like there is a part of this existence that requires us to use our ego. It's very important, that we are present with that experience. So that, yes, I totally agree with that.
Because if we look at our Dharma, all of our Dharmas at the highest level are the same. We are all here to raise consciousness.
Yeah.
But then how we're going to do it, it's unique to you, your soul's plan, the childhood you chose, the ancestral lineage you chose, the past lives that you came in with, the obstacles that you've overcome, the unique path or paths that you could take. Like that is so of course, Source wanted to have the experience of all the different ice cream flavors and Sims characters and things like that, because we are all here to solve the unique world problem that only we in our vibration can solve. So it's this dance of, okay, we are all connected, we are all one, and we are also all unique. The paradox is real. And so how is the flower of me meant to express right now? How does Source consciousness desire to raise planetary frequency through my expression? And oftentimes it's the things that I have something called a Dharma blueprint. So it's 5 aspects. What's your Dharma archetype? Are you, and I have a quiz people can take on dharmaarchetypequiz.com. Are you the visionary? You're here to share big picture, messages with people, right? So a lot of us with podcasts, we're a visionary. Are you the teacher? Are you here to impart knowledge, information, really share with people? Like, when you're teaching about human design, gene keys, you also go into your teacher role. Are you the nurturer? You're here to care and connect with people, work with people one-on-one, have really deep conversations. And again, we have all of them in various amounts. Are you the activist? Here to create social justice, talk about causes, make global societal change? Are you the entrepreneur? Here to create businesses to be solutions? Are you the artist? Here to create beauty in this world? Are you the entertainer? Here to make people feel? Are you the warrior? Here to protect and lead? Are you the researcher? Here to dive deep into understanding the way that things are? So when we look at what is my unique Dharma archetype, that already starts to tell me, now how does Source Conscious want to pinpoint itself into me? The next stage of the Dharma blueprint, this is all in Discover Your Dharma. I teach about it I have a free masterclass as well people can take where we dive into this. But the next part is, what are you excited about? Excitement are the breadcrumbs from your soul. So what are you chat GPTing right now? What conversations do you want to have? What podcasts are you listening to? What are you obsessed with? If you go on a retreat on anything, what would it be? What are you thinking about, daydreaming about? That is guiding you somewhere. Because if you look at your Google searches from a few years ago, it's like what you're doing right now, So it's always the excitement or the things, the little catalysts under the fire that lead us to this thing. The next phase of the Dharma blueprint is, what are the mediums that flow through you? Are you into speaking? What kind of speaking? Speaking on stage? Speaking one-on-one? Poetic speaking? TED Talk style speaking? Do you like writing, long form writing, short form writing, poetic writing? analytical writing? Do you like planning events? Do you like making spreadsheets? Do you like mathematical equations? What is the medium that flows through you? Then the fourth thing is, what are some obstacles that you have overcome or helped someone else overcome? Health challenges, heartbreak, solitude, anxiety, mental health issues, loneliness, even just I moved around a lot as a kid. I had to make new friends all the time. Like, and it could be obstacle, big, small, anything, because that's what life is. We are here to go through these obstacles and share them with other people. And then the fifth quadrant is, or the fifth aspect is, what are your superpowers? What are the things that come easily to you? What are the things that people compliment you on? And oftentimes we don't recognize this because we think, oh, everyone says this all the time because it's what you always hear. So if people are like, wow, Jay, you have such a beautiful way of making me feel seen and heard. People don't say that to everyone. I don't go around saying that to everyone. I only say that to someone I really mean that to. And the other people are the same. So if you hear that, wow, you hold such amazing space. Wow, you are so organized. Wow, you host the most amazing dinner parties. Wow, you have such a clear way of sharing complex information. Wow, you are just such an amazing listener. Wow, you are so genius in the way that you do things. Wow, you're so funny. Those are things that people are saying to you. So start to notice them. What are the things that come easily to you that might not come easily to other people? For some people, going on a podcast and talking for an hour is very easy. For some people, they're like, are you reading off a script? How are you even doing this? Right? Then we have natural propensities. Some people, Robert Grant, he's channeling math equations. I could never understand that. It's not my unique superpower. It's not part of my Dharma. It's not what my soul chose to put in my toolkit. I can try to learn about it, but it's never really going to be my Dharma, unless I don't know, go through a massive mathematical awakening from it. Codes, though, similarly to you, I do feel like Robert, I think we were all in his mystery school in Egypt in a past life.
You're right.
Sure, and that's how we all had soul contracts with each other. It's never our first. We were in Dendera, made total sense.
Oh, yeah.
So when you put these 5 things together, your Dharma archetype, your mediums, your superpowers, your excitement, and the obstacles you've overcome, you put them together, you write them down. Right there, you're looking at the blueprint of your soul. And I've done this with people, from strangers on the street who didn't even know what a Dharma was to my students. Every single person has had an experience. And what the blueprint does is it helps you focus your energy on something. Because something like your Dharma, it's so huge. It's like, okay, I'm here to raise the vibes of the planet. Now what? What do I do with my time? This gives you something to like, okay, if I am a visionary teacher archetype, I am excited about spirituality. I have overcome the obstacle of, my family issues, my divorce, health challenges. My medium is I love to free flow share. And my superpower is I can definitely make more complex spiritual matters easy to understand. If I put these things all together, I could start to think, okay, what would make sense for me? Podcasting, speaking, teaching, writing books, sharing on stages. These are all things I do. It's all right there. And so it makes sense. So anyone can take theirs. Maybe for someone else, it's I love health and technology. I love wellness. I love biohacking. I love to work more one-on-one with people. And they're meant to be like a biohacking health coach. For someone else, it could be, I love art and children and getting my hands dirty and, being offline, and they can start a summer camp for kids on art therapy. It's like there's something for everyone. And what's so beautiful is Source designed us all to be unique, to love to do our dharmas, because it's the only way that it can be sustainable. Because if we hated to do what we were meant to do to raise the vibration of the planet, we're not going to do it, and that's why most people who try to be activists don't follow through. They get burnt out very, very quickly. Someone who's in the activist space. But when you're living your Dharma, it's coming from a place of the heart.
It doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel like work. It's never ending, and you're finding joy. So you want to keep doing it. You're thinking about doing it. Like yesterday, I was at this waterfall in Bali, and I was like looking at this rainbow. It was so beautiful. And the rainbow was speaking to me, telling me what to share about even this war going on in the Middle East, of how we sending rainbows to each other. So it was like, even the most joyful thing, it's speaking to me even of how I can bring this frequency into the densest of subjects. So it's not about, okay, my dharma is to like screw you world, I have nothing to do with you, I'm just going to make my own reality. Some people, we all have different roles to play. Some people are just much more in society. Some people are like meant to be in the Himalayas, truthfully. But I find that those of us who resonate with the priestess archetype, we do have a societal role to play. So it's about how can I, through my unique gifts, my siddhis, my experiences, take that unique piece of consciousness that only I can bring and bring it into the collective, be there with the experience and have the feedback, and then come back into higher consciousness so I can share from a pure rather than a reactive space.
Oh my God. Yes to all of that. And the number one question I get from people is like, what's my purpose? And the funny thing is that even when you go into the Gene Keys, right? Like, so the Gene Keys has the activation sequence and it's got the life's work sphere, which is what you're here to do. It's got the evolution, which is like how you grow and evolve. It's got the radiance, like what's that true light that starts to come through and shine through once you're really doing the work. And then what's the ultimate purpose? And the purpose is never about doing. It's always about being. And what I like to say, it's like about embodying. And then there's the human design that's like everybody has a unique design, even though we all have like a spleen, we all have a, emotional center, we all have all of the basic stuff. Certain things are active and certain things are not. And it's like about accepting and loving those little pieces that like we chose for ourselves in this lifetime to like express and embody. And 100%, when you get clear about that, you recognize like that is my unique design. And if I'm in that space, it's never going to feel like work. I'm going to feel fulfilled. Like in all the different types, it's like when you do what you love, literally, we're all supposed to do what we love. That's the gauge. Because when you're not doing what you love, then essentially that you're not in your dharma. It's great. It's not supposed to be hard. Like, yes, we go through difficult moments and we have to, there's a little bit of a struggle that has to happen in order to get to have the rebirth. Like the snake has to shed its skin and that's not an easy process, but on the other side, it's like every time you do that, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, because it's kind of like a constant flow of like peeling the onion and peeling the onion. In the center, you find that like unique that only you are here to embody. And that's why it's like the whole culture of like comparing ourselves to others and competition and things like that is so toxic. And that whole aspect of social media really runs with that. And it's like a little bit, it's dangerous because we eventually get to a place where like we ignore ourselves, we deny ourselves, and we kind of like push aside these gifts that normally like that they're actually here to be expressed through us. So that's what that reminds me of. I would love to do that for myself too. Just that practice of like discovering these, getting down to the bottom of things and seeing and observing, my own life and seeing, like looking at what is the story that I came here to like embody, and how has that story shaped me, and like where am I going next with it, and how can I find direction. Like all of that is so important for us to do, and all of that has to do with like you gotta learn that you are here to do your own thing, and it's not going to be like anybody else's.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And the beauty of it is it gets to be fun. It gets to be joyful. Like I don't do anything in my work, maybe paying taxes. Besides that, I'm like, that I don't want to do. In my actual dharma, there's nothing that I'm doing that I don't want to do. That
same.
being, when I started my journey, there were things that were challenging for me. I didn't know how to start a website, but I wanted to start a website because I wanted to get my words out there. I didn't know how to send email newsletters, but the thought of sharing it was so exciting to me that I figured it out.
I
So
know. Yeah.
it's not about, it doesn't mean like I'm just going to sit here and just be channeling and I don't know, angels are going to come run my business for me. It's not how it works. However, it's like a relationship. Those more challenging things, the goal, the end goal of what I'm going to receive on the other side is so worth it that there's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thing with me. I started off, my path, my trajectory was, from my conditioning was you have to go to college and then you have to go get a PhD and just, you have to just do something with your life, right? That meant getting a career that was like an acceptable career. And I remember the day that I went to like a yoga class, and that was kind of the doorway for me to enter the whole spiritual world, because it brought in this like Eastern philosophy that I never even knew it existed or what it was. And the first thing was the breath. I was like, can you breathe deeper? And I was like, excuse me, like what? The breath? Like it was a whole new concept. And it always starts somewhere, but then eventually, like if I think about that time back, way back when, to now, I don't do anything that doesn't light me up now, because I know it's not worth it. Because I'll be like messing with the flow, the magic that is like, I've got it going because I've made these choices to like show up and do the things that I love. And so now I'm not going to compromise myself and do something that I don't love. And so you start to become more discerning. You start to know your boundaries. You start to feel so much more confident. But that's a progression. Like I didn't just wake up one day and was like in my purpose. Like it took time to step into it and trial and error. Like you said, like I did the same thing. Like I kind of taught myself how to do all the stuff, and it takes like there's a bit of like determination and wanting it. You really got to want it. So there's hurdles definitely to jump over, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it. I have a question for you about, I want you to share, because I remember that moment that, we kind of cross paths at the Temple of Dendera. And so I know that this trip to Egypt that you just took was the first time, right, that you went to Egypt. And I would love for you to share a little bit about what that was like for you.
Well, it was actually my second time in
Oh,
Egypt.
okay.
Egypt 2.5 years ago, 4 days after finding out my then husband had been cheating on me. And him and I were supposed to go to Egypt together. And I found this information out. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to go or not. And my friend's like, I'll just go with you. And we went to Egypt, and it was a full death. So the perfect place to die. And every single temple and tomb I went to, I let another identity of me die. The identity of a wife, the children I would have had with him, the life, it was a very, very unexpected thing. And I remember telling my friend, I'm like, I probably will never like bright colors again. I will probably never dance again. That version of me that used to know is gone. And when you're in that like kind of like trauma brain, that you're just like, everything is just blasted open, and I'm all of a sudden in these pyramids and tombs, and the hieroglyphics were just speaking to me. And I didn't know what the symbols meant, but it was telling me the story of my life through the hieroglyphics. And I was seeing the way that the snake and the secrets were passed down intergenerationally until someone is brave enough to look at that snake eye to eye and say, I'm not afraid of you. I see you, and I'm one with you, and dance with the snake. And so that was my descent into the underworld. And the past 2.5 years now, since then, it was 29 months actually from this Egypt trip that we went on, which is a full lunar cycle, 21 days as well.
Wow.
29 degrees in an astrological sign, 29 days in a lunar cycle. And so it's 29 months exactly. And I wasn't expecting anything from this trip. I thought, oh, I already went to Egypt once. I had not been to Dendera though.
Oh.
It was my first time in Dendera, because my soul obviously was not meant to go that time. And so coming back to this, it was I remember I received this message at this small Isis temple in Karnak that I don't know if you remember. I was like, I need to go to this Isis temple because it was a very big part of my initiation the first time. And I found this little temple, and there I sat in this specific spot, and the frequency of Isis just came through so strongly. And she's like, sit up, remember to connect to your Jeb energy. And that is like the spinal energy. And it was like putting my crown back on, and it showed me this journey I had been on of like relationship and who am I meant to be with. And it's like a lot of focused on the external of the relationship. And it was like, no, you have been resurrecting your 14 pieces and
Oh.
putting yourself together in this new way. And then all of a sudden my arms started spreading, and I realized I had been growing these wings, these white and gold wings. And it was that full underworld descent back up into the priestess. And that is alchemy, the 7 stages of alchemy. We go through the coagulation, we go into the fire, we go into the water, the purification, we go into the air, the refinement, we go into the earth, the start of the new formation of the thing. We go into the fermentation of it. These are all stages of our spiritual journey that continue, you know? I remember before this divorce, I thought, oh, I've been through my spiritual journey. I was a spiritual teacher already, all these things. And I was like, no, now it's just a new spiral of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming back to Egypt after spending most of my time in the depths of understanding pain and suffering and these realms that I had not fully excavated into, and coming out the other side from a place of more wholeness, more joy, more light, more desire to love and live. It was a full resurrection for me. And then being in Dendera, walking into this beautiful temple of Hathor, who is like a main goddess of mine. She's the goddess that, you know, when I was there 2.5 years ago, I remember, oh, I was full of a lot of anger. And I remember Sekhmet was, you know, goddess of sacred rage. And there was a woman there who's taking me around, and she was like, I can take you to the Sekhmet temple, and I'm a Sekhmet initiate, and you can become initiated in her mystery school. And I was like, yes. But then I just knew in my soul, I'm not meant to be in Sekhmet's mystery school. A great respect for her, but it's not my path. I am not the Durga who's here to like the warrior. That's not my Dharma archetype.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more the artist.
Mm.
And that's what I realized. In every temple I was going to, I was like, who's she? Who's she? They're like, that's Hathor, Hathor. I was obsessed with her. And that's the goddess of music, creativity, expression, but also the mother. So I didn't connect to her as the mother, then I was connecting to her as music. I got her tattooed on me. And, you know,
Wow.
after that, I started to channel production. I started producing music. I produced an album. I became a musical artist that somehow got millions of streams on my music, like in this time. And I never knew I had that gift. So, but coming back now to Dendera, the home of Hathor, connecting to her as the mother, which was the archetype that I had not connected to before. I had a very big fear of having children. I would only look at everything that could go wrong. Even in that marriage, I thought, I never want to have kids.
Wow.
Now it's this deep, primal,
You
maternal.
you knew that that wasn't the right
It
person,
wasn't meant to be.
right?
We were not meant
Yeah.
to create a lineage together.
Yeah.
That's what I could feel. And when I was tuning into my fears, it was always around like his family, to be honest,
Mm.
because I knew it was not the family, you know? So the way that my body protected myself was, I don't want to have kids, because when you're married to someone, it's like, okay, you're married. It's like, when are you going to have kids? And I was just sort of waiting for that call. And then after we divorced, I was like, okay, I guess I'm never going to have kids, and that's my path. And then it was actually through sitting with the medicine that the medicine of San Pedro introduced me to my children. It was the most profound love I've ever experienced in this time being with them. And it was like showing me that the meaning of love is life, that we are life creating life back for life itself. Like that is all we are doing. And at first I was debating with the medicine, like, but I'm helping so many people. I'm sharing my books and my podcasts and all these things. Like I'm a mother to so many.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, one day Spotify is not going to exist in like 60 years, you know? And it's like, if you want to leave the world a different place, the only thing you're actually going to leave in this world are your children. And those are the very essences that you're here, that will literally live on generationally. And, I don't know, everyone's path is different, but for me, it was so clear. And I was sitting with that for over a year of, was that metaphorical? Am I really meant to be a mother or not? And now I can feel so strongly, like I can feel my son. I can see, I know him. I still don't have a partner, but I can feel the essence of him that I can see now. And I'm still in this becoming the version of myself that is meant to meet with whomever my divine counterpart is, and to become the mother of this child. And so coming back to Dendera, for sure, I was probably, specifically what I felt there was like, what have you guys done to this place? Like, I spent so long on this temple. You should have seen how ornate it was. We had a mystery school and a birthing center and white robes hanging from the ceiling and flowers and candles and fruit offerings and altars everywhere. And now it's this dusty museum and you won't even let me meditate here. Like, what has happened? Like, why have we forgotten? Why are there no more temples? Like, why are we alone? Like, why were children like me and people listening to this podcast meant to feel like we're all freaking crazy and we're lonely and we're questioning ourselves? Am I making this up? Is this my own way of dealing with the uncertainty of the world, making up all these spiritual stories? Is this all freaking bullshit? Like, I ask myself this sometimes, still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
This temple, you're like, oh no, it was real. Like, everything you thought of was real. We were here. We were doing this. This was the center point of society. Spirit, these conversations, it wasn't a hobby like it might be for all of us right now. It was the center point of society. It was our raison d'être, our reason of being. And we have just forgotten. We have become so pushed away, and it just made, I was crying for like 30 minutes, just sobbing, like this guttural, like, oh, like this, the library, like I've been here and it's like, we've gone. Like, I just thought of all the people the past 2,000 years who have probably walked through that temple and felt the same of like, when is it going to come back? Are we going to experience it in this lifetime? How did we come so far? And a message that came through to the end was, we are here to rebuild the temples. We are here to build new temples, and I feel doing ritual in the ancient old temples, but also building new temples, because then we are free to create new codes. And it's like, sometimes in these older temples, like we don't really know everything about the temple. And also they're held like historical sites, whereas we can build our own temples and do ritual and come together and have that awe and wonder and majesty and connect to something greater than ourselves. And then even beyond that, we are the temple. We are the living temple. Earth is our temple. Nature is our temple. Every single opportunity we have at a leaf, a cloud, a flower, a twig on the ground is an opportunity for ritual and for prayer. And when we can come back to that, knowing ourselves as the temple, knowing every single moment as initiation to step into our highest selves, then the temples can never be destroyed again.
Satnam. So I thank you for saying all that. I went to my first time to Egypt was the time in February, and I remember this was, so I have a mystery school Akashic, certification program where level 1 is all about the initiation of each of the temples. So we go temple by temple, chakra by chakra, working through the Akashic records to understand what we learned in that temple, why, embodying it. And so I had all this information that I teach about the temples, but the thing that was missing for me was the actual going to them in this lifetime, because I know I've been there before, but going to them in this lifetime, and like the cellular memory of when that can really only happen when you're there. Like, I know that now. When I first got to the temple of Dendera, I was like, get out of my way, get out of my way. It was like I have to, see her. And I knew exactly what I was walking into. And I remember I got off the bus and I started walking down that path, and then I turned the corner and I saw the 4 columns, the 4 faces, like in the distance. You have to walk like long corridor. And I was filming and I sobbed the entire time as I was walking up like, I don't even know, it just came over me. And that's the experience that I had the first time. And I sobbed the whole time I was there. Like, it was this, I felt held. I also felt the grief. It was like a conglomeration of all these. Oh my God. It was it was a intense moment. And so I remember when I saw you and you were sobbing, I was like, I was like, I know, I know. So I came up to you and I gave you this hug. And you remember what I said? I said, don't lose hope. I was like, don't lose hope. You have to keep the hope alive. Like, we are going to rebuild this. And now hearing you say this, I'm like, oh my God. And you're reminding me, like, my husband and I bought land here in Arizona, and he has visions of a pyramid like on the land. And it's this really wild, like, building a place like a retreat center, but like the place of meeting and doing ceremony and gathering is going to look like a pyramid. And he doesn't know where that comes from. But I mean, we know where it comes from, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like this crazy. And you're reminding me, like, yes, we are here to build new temples and to activate new like light codes onto the planet, and that's what we're here to do. So it was a really beautiful moment for me to just kind of hold space and to like remember. Also, you reminded me of my journey, my first time going in there, and it was like, just, oh my God, this place is just no words, no words, the Temple of Dendera.
Yeah, like I knew, well, I thought it's going to be so beautiful. I'm going to take an amazing photo shoot there, And I went, oh, my makeup just cried off. It was just walking through. It was just this feeling of like, I didn't even share it on my Instagram. It's on my highlights if people want to see it, of just like going into the room, like, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. And it's like another one, another one. And it's like, I can't even say, like, in my mind, I knew it was like this, the amnesia is so real that it's like you feel, but you can't exactly pinpoint
Right.
it was.
Mhm.
But this grief, and I'm like going up the stairs and I could not stop with these guttural tears. Another message that came through to me when I left was like, why was I crying so hard? And it was like, because you were crying the tears that the temple cannot.
Mm.
And I feel that we also serve as doulas
Mm.
for her grief of thousands of years being a place of gathering of women of ritual that has now been taken by a Muslim Brotherhood government, where women, and I'm saying this as a Muslim woman, where women are not seen as full humans
Mm.
in this religion. We are seen as half of a human.
Mm.
We are held towards horrible patriarchal rulership. And the priestess went from a revered woman in society to anything remotely like that makes you castrated. And it wasn't just in Islam, it's what happened in the witch trials, it's what's happening all over around the world. And so it was also this deep grief of the temple of like, I was a place for the feminine.
Mm.
And now I am held captive by this toxic masculinity that's harming the men as well. And this fear that it's this collective fear of connecting, this fear of where it's going to take us. And that's why we've created religion and bureaucracy and government and all of these like intermediary, because of how powerful we would really be if we remembered and connected directly to source.
Mhm.
Wouldn't be controllable anymore.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
I really believe we are having these mass awakenings, communications at this time to see that these religions, these governments do not have our best interests at heart. They are creating the very conflicts that they claim to protect us from. They create the issue and then pose themselves as the solution. And we are waking up past that and going into this place of self-governance, going to this place of restorative and regenerative systems of leadership, going back to the place of the circle rather than the hierarchy, because no government on earth really, very, very few governments are actually helping their people. They're using their people as pawns. And
Mm.
this is all connected to the path of the priestess. This is what we were advocating for back then. And this is just all happening now. And so I share this because it's important that we take our gnosis and our inner knowing and actually create now new ways of being. And some of us will be working in creating the schools, and some of us will be working with the foods, and some of us will be working with the art, and some of us will be working with the government. Some of us will be working in different things, but it's just so important for us to reconnect to our Dharma, that bigger picture thing. Because when you connect with it, everything else actually will fall into place. The right partnership, the right friendships, the right home, because the universe wants to support you. People think the opposite. Oh, well, I don't have enough money yet. I'm not where I want to be in my life. I still
Putting
don't have.
the cart in front of the horse.
Yeah, exactly. You focus on your Dharma, the universe figures the rest out for you, and it's going to be way better than you could have ever thought. But you need to commit to the
I
Dharma.
can attest to that. Like that has been my journey, especially these last few years where like full trust, like 100% leap of faith after leap of faith after leap of faith. And now the magic has started to happen. And it was like trust, trust, trust. The word that's coming to me right now as you're speaking is sovereignty. That's what we're like stepping into. That's what we're bringing back. The sovereignty of like just letting that like true light just shine through and knowing your own truth. I have
Absolutely.
one more question to ask you.
Sure.
So right now, the world is going through chaos. Like it's chaotic. And I would like to ask you, what is your message for the world right now? For people that are questioning, for people that are scared, for people that are like, you know, they're so like crazy. It's crazy times. So if there was something, a message, something that you feel could help someone who maybe needs to hear it, what would that be?
Connect back to something larger than you, to spirit, to nature, to source, to ritual, to friendship, connection, children, animals. This will help reorient your energy so you can be focused on what is real and what is true, which is Gaia, which is love, which is truth. And from that place of purity and harmony, then you will know exactly what it is that you need to do. So it is so tempting to be super glued to our phones and but the thing is, these algorithms, they'll start to actually even show us things that aren't real. Like check dates of things. Like I was going down this rabbit hole and it was like showing me videos from a long time ago, but making it seem like it's happening now. And it's like these false narratives that put you into these echo chamber loops, and then you're left helpless. And so you don't need to know everything to be of service. In fact, it's better to limit sometimes how much you're taking in. Know the overarching of, by the way, the problem that you're here to solve, which won't be every problem. You can't take on every single global issue because each is so deep and so multifaceted. So again, what is your Dharma? What is the thing that you really want to focus and devote your energy towards? Come back to nature, come back to what's true. And how can I bring my unique magic sauce, the unique energetic frequency I'm here to bring towards this thing, and let it come from the heart?
Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you again for, coming onto the podcast and sharing your wisdom and your magic. And you're so inspirational to so many people. Like, keep doing what you're doing. It's beautiful to watch. As a fellow projector, it makes me feel so, so good to see other projectors fully stepping in their power, because I know that that's what the world needs. It needs everybody to step into their power. But I think with the specific projector frequency, because natural guides come through this frequency, that we really need to know who we are. So I commend you for being in that space, for like being courageous to be on your path. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And for people who want to take those quizzes, on my website, iamsahararose.com, you can find the Dharma archetype quiz. You can find my dosha quiz. I have a goddess archetype quiz as well. I have a free masterclass. My school, Highest Self Institute, Rose Gold Goddesses, everything is there. And my Instagram is I am Sahara Rose. And my podcast is called Highest Self Podcast. So thank you so much, Jay, for having me on. It was such a pleasure to be here today. And thank you for everyone for listening until the end. This is a multifaceted conversation. I really want to honor you and where you're at in your journey to take this all in. And thank you for taking the time. It takes a lot of devotion. It's in this society, we're listening to like highlight reels of things and we're not diving deep into subjects. So I want to honor you, listener, for diving deep into something. And I hope you take this inspiration and you use it as a catalyst to even take one little step towards your Dharma.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening. And until next time, Satnam.